Okay, is everyone ready to start? What about? Zoom's ready to go? All right, let me get this turned on.
Oh, you're not even connected. Yeah. Christina, how do we connect her? Here. First. Shut up. It's recording. Turn your mic off. Over there. Don't show me.
All right, I would like to call the board to order and we have a Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers. Present. Trustee Reinders. Present. Trustee Pazmino. Present. Trustee Consolino. Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Laha. Present. Mayor Yukich.
Present.
Did we dial? Andrew, check to see if she was trying to get dialed in.
Jen Harris?
Was that who's on there? I didn't know who's on.
Jen, can you hear us?
That's a no.
Okay.
Wait, don't you have to, like, call in like the numbers, yeah. She did.
Her mic is muted? I didn't mute her.
Jen, we can't hear you.
She has to control it from her side.
She controls it from her side.
All right, somebody text her and let her know.
I got it.
Okay.
She's on mute. Jen, can you hear us?
Okay. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, sir, I have an amendment. This would be for H1. We need to strike out that amount for $598,943, correct that to, or amend that, $506,556.93. Amend the agenda to consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of April 15th, 2022 through April 28th, 2022 in the amount of $506,556.93 with supplemental sheets attached to the board packet.
Okay. Second, I would like to make one thing for the public comment. At public comment tonight, I understand a lot of people are here because of what they've heard about the buildings that could be going up. What we're trying to do is, I'll hear out what you have to say. Nothing long or drawn out. Because what we plan on doing down the line is having a work. Who's talking?
I think Trustee Consolino. Trustee Consolino, can you hear us?
Jen, can you hear us now?
She said she could hear everyone, but there was a mic like that.
Jen, can you hear us now?
Can you hear now?
Okay. Just go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go on this so this doesn't drag all night. We want to hear your concerns, but we are going to do a workshop. It would be better for us to do a workshop where we can get anyone that's in this village to come out here, hear what they plan on doing or what they want to do. Right now, it's at such a infancy that we don't even know exactly what it's going to be. So I understand there's concerns, and I don't want to tell you that you can't discuss it. So when it comes to public comment, you still have a 3-minute limit, but you can explain what we're looking for, and if there's questions after that, you're more than welcome to call me after the meeting. But right now, we're going to keep it to where it's just going to be bits and pieces, and we'll get the workshop out to everyone, so this way they can come if they want to. Next would be welcome Fire Chief Kevin Doyle. So we have Chief Doyle, who started his fire service career.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Okay, Chief Doyle started his fire service career with the North Palos Fire Department in Palos Hills in 1982. From there, he moved to Pleasant View.
Okay, I can't hear any of you guys still. If you can hear me, I can't hear you. I think it's our mic that says Matt Walsh on the Zoom that says it's off.
That's just our Zoom.
All right, someone want to take a look at that? If there's any other way we can get this thing on there?
Okay, I hear you guys now.
They can hear now? Okay.
She's got to mute her mic.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Good, thank you.
Okay, Jennifer, can you talk now?
I hear you guys, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
From there, he moved to Pleasant View Farm Fire Department in Countryside in 1986. This is horrible so far.
I think, Jen, you're going to have to mute unless you're speaking.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Nope.
In addition to his fire department duties, can you hear me? Hear me, hear me, hear me. Yeah, don't go to the light.
Now, George, try now.
All right,
No.
Chief, I swear we'll get this right. All right, let's start over. Let's get rid of that echo. It's either that or I get off this and I just talk loud.
Carmen, put her on a cell phone. Yeah, put her on a cell phone. Yeah, I just turned this on.
Hello.
Yeah, get this.
On the desk. It's being up.
I'm gonna call her.
All right.
You have to.
Okay, I'm going to have to do it just by being a big mouth. Chief Doyle started his fire service career with the North Palos Fire Department in Palos Hills in 1982. From there, he moved on to Pleasant View Fire Department in Countryside in 1986, where he spent 29 years before becoming the fire chief in 2011. In addition to his fire department duties, Chief Doyle has spent 24 years as a fire protection consultant for several major corporations, such as Lucent Technologies, Wrigley Gum, Nicor, Johnson Controls, and Rush Hospital. He has also spent 10 years as an adjunct, okay, faculty member at Moraine Valley College. He is a graduate of Southern Illinois University and the National Fire Academy. After retiring from the Pleasant View Fire Department in 2014, Chief Doyle spent 4 years consulting in the private sector before returning to fire service in 2018. As a fire chief of the Palos Heights Fire Department during this time, Chief Doyle has also served as an elected trustee for the Homer Township Fire District before becoming president in 2020. He held that position until February of this year. Most notable of his accomplishments, Chief Doyle, his wife Lori, 34 years, and their 3 children have been proud Homer Township, Homer Glen residents for 29 years. And we welcome you with open arms. Okay. Next would be public comment. Or, Chief, do you want to say anything beforehand?
No, that's okay.
I thought that was going to be the answer because, all right, thank you. Public comment, so if everyone, there should be, okay. Stanley Wallach.
Hi everyone, my name is Stanley Wallach. I live on the west side of that property, of the Walter property, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. We worked long and hard to get that open space on a referendum, and it worked. We got over 200 acres of open space. Now, and I live on the border of that property, and I live on the flood zone of this property, and I know about 30% of this property is Army Corps of Engineers dedicated wetland. So it's 30% of this property is really useless. So I know there's other pieces of property that are privately owned that don't have to be subsidized by the taxpayers. This property is already parkland owned. It's dedicated for open space. I mean, that was the whole idea of this. We've spent a lot of money, we paid for this land, and to see it go downhill and have high-density housing in here, it's embarrassing for all the people that put so many hours and so much time into getting these 200 acres. So I hope you guys think long and hard when you really start thinking about what kind of density that they're putting in there. I know Ruben was saying it's not going to affect the schools at all. Well, you know what? The open space doesn't actually hurt the schools either, you know, so with more students. So, thank you.
Thanks, Stanley. Mike Campobello.
Well, I'm here for the same reason Stan is, and I just wanted to bring it to people's attention that if you look on the Homer Township's website, they actually have an open space dedicated page that speaks about this property. And I'll quote one part of this. It says, "By law, the purpose of open space is to promote preservation of the natural environment, scenic resources, geological features, and historic sites." I don't know who can define that, but to me it sounds like that's something that we should preserve as a town. And that's a nice statement.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Christine, you're here for variance?
Yes.
All right, we'll pull you up here unless you have any comments on this?
No.
Okay. Sharon Swees.
This is about the zoning workshop. I see that these electronic signs have raised their ugly head once again. Why is the board looking to create more visual and light pollution along with increasing glare on our roadways? These signs will definitely detract from the village's character. Our community does not need these driver distractions, which can become a safety hazard. The more distractions in our environment, the more we have to deal with unsafe drivers and visual clutter. According to Scenic America, previous human behavior studies have shown that drivers are hardwired to note bright changing lights and to anticipate additional motion. Any logic would suggest that if business owners prefer these signs because they grab your attention, then by default, the attention that is paid to the road ahead is compromised. It is also important to note that many studies claiming to dispute a direct connection between these types of signs and traffic safety are sponsored by who? The sign industry. Mokina took the considerate and sensible approach and prohibits electronic signs, and we should do the same. This topic should have been sent to the Environment, CED, and Public Safety Committees for their input and review. Once again, the board ignored them and they were not involved. How can you have a knowledgeable workshop discussion without evaluating comments from these committees? One last comment for the attorney. The business owners on this board should remove themselves from discussion and future voting due to any potential financial benefit and gain from approving additional signage.
Thank you, Sharon. Next would be Bill Canarda? All right, how bad did I kill it?
Bad, pretty bad. It's Bill Cosanda. I have the same concerns as my neighbors here, but also my parents moved out here in 1984. They still live here. They voted for the referendum in, I believe it was 01 or somewhere back there.
Would you just do me a favor and just turn that microphone off for just a moment? Okay, let's just try that. It doesn't turn off, it stays green?
Yep. So they voted for the referendum. They do not live near an open space. I thought it was a good idea. When I had the chance to move back to Homer in 2016, I purchased a home near my neighbors next to the open spaces. It was a huge selling point for me, and I think it's pretty terrible if they're going to build anything on that property. That's it.
Thank you, Bill. And like I said before, we're making sure that we're going to do a workshop. Let's get everyone in here, get their voices heard, find out exactly what is going on, and then go from there. So, and we're not going to drag this on. We'll get something out to a work meeting, I would say by the end of May. So if you do have any other questions, my cards are on the wall. Take them. My phone number's on it. I answer it no matter when it rings. So, thank you for coming out. If you want to listen to the rest of it, that's fine, but we will address everything for you. Next. Okay. Next would be reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. Mayor, I'll start it off. Right now, the weather's been semi-decent. It's still cold out there, but you see a lot more kids and people out on the streets. So all I would like to do is just make sure that everyone's paying attention to what they're doing, keep the speed down, and again, lock all the doors. Don't leave them unlocked. If you leave them unlocked and you got a garage door opener over it, they can hit that and get inside your house. We just want this. We are the safest community in the state of Illinois right now. It would be nice if we could stay that way, but sometimes you don't know who's going to come in. So stop them before they do. Next would be, is Jennifer on?
Jennifer?
No, unfortunately, thank you.
Okay. No report.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Laha.
Thank you, Mayor. For reporting for the Ability Awareness Committee, we had a community sign language course yesterday, and it was a really great turnout. It was a really great class. The facilitator was so engaging and so fun. I myself was shocked at how hard sign language actually is, even physically on the hand. So I just want to thank our facilitator for coming and sharing so much knowledge with us. Thank you to my committee members that all showed up and helped support this event. It was a great time. Next up for the Ability Awareness Committee is we're getting ready for our Special Needs Day at Homerfest, so we're excited for that. Dan, we're going to make you proud on that day, so thank you for letting us be a part of it again. I'm sure Rosie will talk more about the parks, but we're really excited. We had a bid offer come in. Rosie and I have been working really hard to get a 2 to 5 and a 5 to 12-year-old section back there in Heritage Park, and we're really excited to see what it was looking like. There's accessibility, there's inclusivity, and it's everything we really wanted it to be. So we're excited to hopefully get on top of that ASAP. Rosie has an amazing report when it comes to Veterans Memorial, so I'm going to let her talk about that. That's her baby. But I just want to thank our park committee members as well as John Robinson for working really hard and really quickly to make sure that we can get that park edition hopefully by the end of summer. So that is my report.
Thank you. Trustee Rogers?
No report, thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Pazmino?
Thank you, sir. Reporting for the Environment Committee, we have a few events in the pipeline. We have our stargazing event on Friday, May 6th, starting at 7:30 with the nighttime animals from Big Run Wolf Ranch. Then we have our telescope setup and stargazing event itself, starting at 8 o'clock from 8 to 10 p.m. One of our other events I'm kind of excited about is on Sunday, May 22nd. Second and third graders are invited to a springtime planning event together with the Homer Glen Junior Women's Club, Parks Committee. They'll be planting herbs in the active core, and they'll be sowing seeds to take home to start a garden. So that's going to be at Heritage Park. The cost is free. They will need pre-registration, which is available on our website, homerglenil.com. Pre-registration is available, I think, starting now. And the time is going to be from 1 to 4. Again, it's going to be on Sunday, May 22nd. One more thing, we are hosting our annual Big Tree Champion Contest. Applications are available also on our website, and looking forward to having everybody register. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Reinders.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just want to add a little bit to what Nicole said tonight about the 2 to 5 and the 5 to 12. We actually have a rendering of what the playground will look like, and I was hoping that we were going to be able to show it to you tonight, but John Robinson isn't here. So we are actually going to be taking that to A&F on May 4th, and hopefully once it goes to A&F, then we will go to the board for approval. And they said basically it will take about 8 weeks to order the equipment, and they can start after that. But that should come right in about the time, right after Homerfest, so we should be really good with our time. So maybe sometime towards July, the later end of July. Another thing I'd like to add to Ruben too, for the May 22nd, this is for the younger kids, and we actually already have 18, Melissa, don't we have 18 people already registered? So we're real excited about that. Last year I planted the herb garden myself, and this year I'm gonna actually be able to teach all the little ones how to plant, and hopefully they're going to go home and be excited wanting to plant in their own backyard. So also today I received a call from Michelle Mullins. I don't know where she got the information about our Veterans Memorial, but she was very excited about that, and I basically passed out a rendering thanks to Amy Frizzalone. She actually put our rendering not my little scratch of paper that I showed up last time, but she actually put that on a drawing for us. So the committee, our Parks Committee, unanimously approved this drawing and would like to move forward with this drawing for the Veterans Memorial. So we're real excited about that. We're going to finish up the rendering, and then basically John and I are going to be going to the park and setting up the area where we think it will be more feasible for the veterans. They basically asked for something a little bit more serene than the back of the Village Hall. So we'll be moving forward with that. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fialco.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to remind everybody that Homerfest is 8 weeks away. It'll be here before we know it. Thank you, Rose, for holding off on construction till we
we're done with that phase of the summer. But we're also looking for volunteers. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, please go to homerfest.com or call the village and tell them that you're willing to be a volunteer. The dates are June 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th. June 23rd is a Thursday. It starts on that Thursday. That is the night of the fireworks. We also have communication on the Facebook page for Homer Glen also. The other comment that I just want to make about the Walter Farm is I want to just remind everybody that's really at a township level right now. It's going to be a long time before it makes it here. And like Mayor Ukich said, there's going to be a workshop and there'll be conversations about that. And I understand how everybody feels about that piece of property, and your concerns are being taken seriously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next would be our village clerk, Christine.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind everybody that our Pop Tab Challenge is live now. It's every resident for themselves, but we also added a business aspect to it too, so businesses also can compete against each other, but not the residents. And we will be announcing the winner on June 24th. If you want more details, check out our website and our Facebook page. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to the village attorneys. Eric?
No report, Your Honor.
Okay. Carrie?
Thank you, Mayor. No report.
Okay. Jeff, anything? Nope. Okay, sounds good. Next would be village manager.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to talk about block cameras. We still are at the status where we only have 2 installed. We are starting to get notification for those. Just to update everybody on that. The other thing I want to mention is Saturday, May 14th, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., we're doing our kite festival. So our kite festival will be out there. It's a free event. There's going to be a food truck out there for purchase. They're going to have some games donated by Cross of Glory, and this is going to be a really fun time. I just want to touch base with that because Sue's been working really hard with stuff like that, so get that information out. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. And back to the public safety officials. Thanks, Dave. It's good seeing you back. And Kevin, again, welcome to the village. All right, next would be consent agenda. Consider for, what's the change figure? Okay, consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of April 15th, 2022 through April 28th, 2022 in the amount of $506,556.93. 2, consider for approval the treasurer's report of cash and investments for the period ending March 31st, 2022. All in favor? Need a motion. Oh, I need a motion?
So move.
Need a second? Now I need a roll call.
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Rogers? No. Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Fialco?
Aye.
And Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now we're in legislation and action items. Number 1, consider for approval the proclamation for Arbor Day.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
You want to read this? This is basically for Arbor.
I didn't get to practice. All right, here we go.
On the fly.
So today we are proclaiming a proclamation declaring April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the village of Homer Glen. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation of the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees and renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our village increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of our businesses, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. So, do you want me to read your name? I can see why you don't want to read that.
Okay, my name is George Ukich. So, yes, it's nice. The trees are very good, and it gives us the oxygen that we need. So I'll get that signed, and that could go back down to Christine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, consider a motion to appoint trustee Ruben Pasmino as mayor pro tem.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Dan, Rose, discussion. Madam Clerk, well, you're mayor pro tem.
Madam Clerk, please.
For the rest of this year.
Trustee Pasmino.
Aye.
Trustee Laha.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Cancelino. Aye. Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Sir, I'd like to say thank you for the gesture. I appreciate it.
No problem. Doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Okay, next, consider for approval ordinance number 22-016, an ordinance adopting the Village of Homer Glen's budget for fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2022 and ending April 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So, Mayor, this is the final step in our New Year budget. It started back in January with the department heads submitting their requests. We did a workshop in March, public hearing at the first meeting in April, and now it's presented to you for your approval. It's 11 funds. The general fund, which is our operating fund, has a $150,000 projected surplus. The total expense of all 11 funds is a shade under 27 million. Those are predominantly capital project funds. We accumulate funds over the years and then spend them down. So if anybody has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer it, but it's a good, healthy budget for next year with lots of initiatives. The PowerPoint presentation from the March meeting we'll have it online if it's not there currently. That lists all of the initiatives that are included in this budget. If the residents wanted to look at it, it would be available on the transparency portal on the village website.
Okay.
John, I'd like to also add that, just to make a point so everybody out there listening understands, I believe we have a total of about $29 million, correct? Somewhere close to that?
That's correct.
Our budget for that last year was close to $8 million last year, correct?
The general fund budget is about $12 million. All the other 10 funds make up the difference.
Right. But how much under budget were we for fiscal years so far?
Well, I anticipated being about $2.5 million under budget.
Under budget.
So we've had some of these state revenues have been really good, income tax, sales tax, and then we've had a lot of savings in we've got some vacant positions and created some savings in salaries. So we've had a win on both sides from a budgetary standpoint.
All right, thank you. I just want to make a point that this board had made a commitment to being fiscally responsible. And this is just our first round, basically, and a reflection of that. So I hope everybody's happy with the performance we've had this past year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next. Roll call.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Cancelino? Aye. Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, consider for approval ordinance number 22-017, an ordinance granting a variance to permit a mix of stone and stucco materials on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of the exterior construction standards 75-67A, applicability and scope type of building or structure of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R3 Single Family Residential District at 14412 West Is Brook Drive, Homer Glen, Illinois. Do you want to come up? I need a motion.
So move.
Need a second? Okay. Are there any questions for the homeowner?
The rendering that's included in the booklet here, attachment C, is that, thank you, is that the idea for your house? The look? Yes. It's really pretty.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
I just wanted to say that.
I think that Joe has basically done the fact findings under Exhibit B, and that basically spells it out. And thank you for that, Joe.
Are there any other houses in the area of your house that has Facebook brick on just sections of it?
We are new in that subdivision, so I have no idea.
Yeah, there is a mix of materials in that particular subdivision. We're starting to see the popularity of mixed materials, with different materials other than just brick being used today. They're acceptable for the building code. They're good materials, they're sustainable, they're durable, they're not non-siding, they're not cheap materials. There's some really good products out there now. I think we're seeing a different style of architecture, more of the farmhouse style. You know, this range expansions that we've seen in the past, and I think it adds to the community.
Yeah, I like the house a lot, and I really don't have an issue with it. It does look very nice, and you still have cement properties on it, so.
And all the materials that we use do have to be building codes.
It looks it looks very similar to houses in Clarendon Hills and Hinsdale also. I think it looks beautiful. Go ahead.
How many square feet is, I'm sorry, how many square feet is the house? 5,000. 5,000? It's beautiful.
Wouldn't want to clean that one.
Yeah. Or pay the taxes.
All right, is there any other comments? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Jen?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
And Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Motion carries. You're welcome. Next would be number 5, Parkview Christian Church, case number HG 2205SP. A, consider for approval ordinance number 22-018 to request the amendment for minor changes to a special use permit for a planned development originally granted by ordinance 06082, amended by ordinance 16019 and 18-014 for certain real property located in the C2 local business district at 14367 West 159th Street in Homer Glen, Illinois.
So move.
I'll second.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Discussion?
Melissa, do you
Madam-
want to, do you want
Let me
to?
just give you a brief overview. So this one's looks a little bit different, I think. So we did take the daycare request for a special use through the Plan Commission. That requires a public hearing, a Plan Commission recommendation, and then board approval. As part of this project, not only are they adding a daycare inside the facility, a play area out back, but they're also removing 4 parking spaces and adding some impervious area around the front of the church. Those were considered minor amendments to the PUD in addition to that special use permit. Minor amendments to PUDs are only reviewed at the board level. They don't require a public hearing, so we didn't address those things at Plan Commission. They were just brought forward. But technically, this is one project, so that's why there's one slide, 2 motions, 2 different ordinances. If there's any questions about the recommendation or anything on the projects, on either of these, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Do you foresee any issues with either of these?
Do not.
Okay. Christine, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
And Trustee Fielko?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then there's a B to that. For approval, ordinance 2219, a request for approval of a special use permit for a daycare center and preschool for certain real property located in the C2 Local Business District at 14367 West 159th Street, Homer, Glen, Illinois. Case number HG 2205SP.
So moved.
Second.
Ruben, Rose, discussion? Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll?
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha?
Aye.
Trustee Fielko?
Aye.
And Trustee Consolino?
Motion carries.
She said aye.
All right, next would be the workshop for proposed zoning code updates.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second time that we'll be presenting the zoning code updates through a workshop with the board. The number of code updates is significantly reduced. Carmen and I have talked about pulling back and doing maybe a few, I don't need this. A few code updates, maybe more times a year. So we'll just try this way and see how it goes. Oh, that is what this is. Sorry, I apologize. So the 5 code updates that we'll be talking about today are the chicken and bee ordinance, the selling of vape products in certain commercial districts, looking at parking for restaurants on a square footage basis versus our current code requires it to be done per seating, the allowance of electronic message signs, and then addressing some changes in the tree preservation ordinance. To keep this just high level, what staff is looking for is feedback from the board on policy direction. The next steps after this would be for us to go back to kind of the drawing board and look at other codes and our codes and how to rewrite this based on policy direction from the board. And then it goes to a public hearing at Plan Commission. And then ultimately that code does come back in front of you again in a more solidified version. So I'm not going to go through all of this. I mean, I think that this was handed out a number of times, and so I'll just, right at the high level, staff is looking for recommendations on whether or not chickens and bees should be allowed in all of our residential districts subject to setbacks. Currently, there are properties in the village that are in one of the prohibited zoning districts but have larger lot sizes than can meet, and they can meet the setbacks. Residents have expressed interest in having this ordinance changed to allow those properties to be able to have those chickens and bees. This item has been presented at Public Safety and also the Environment Committee back in January. Both committees recommended changing the ordinance to remove the reference to the zoning districts and allow chickens and bees in all residential zoning districts subject to setbacks. Are there any questions on this one and feedback?
Can you reiterate what their recommendation was?
The recommendation is to strike out the request for, there's a line in the chicken and the bee section that says that it references specific zoning districts that it's only allowed in. So that would be taken out, and there would just, what would be left are the setback regulations. There's a few other things like how many, I think, chickens you can have and no roosters, all those would still apply. So it's just the restriction for the zoning district reference.
Joe, what are your thoughts on this? You're kind of the chicken and bee.
I agree with this. Back when we had first adopted this, the zoning portion of it, the type of zoning was brought into it. My main focus when I drafted this ordinance back a couple years ago was the nuisance portion where you had the setback requirements and not specifically zoning. We have some properties here that are quite large that are probably or maybe miszoned based on their size, and people would be able to still meet the 50-foot setback requirements and the number of birds and things like that. So it would eliminate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're the ones that's been fighting this for 20-something years, so.
And actually, since we've adopted this, we've had very little complaints. It's kind of been quiet, so it's a good thing.
Question I would...
Unintended, with, we don't allow roosters, so it's been quiet.
Joe, I've got one question. I'm not real familiar with the bee and chicken ordinance, but when it comes to bees, there's different types of bees, and some are more aggressive to attack people, and other bees are for farming and flowers and stuff. Does the ordinance already call for restrictions on what would be like the African bee that's more aggressive?
I don't foresee people raising African bees. Most people want to raise honeybees, and that's, I think, where this is directed. We have no ordinances on African bees or any other.
But as long as we're amending it, could we make that part of the ordinance where we don't allow the aggressive type of bee to be farmed?
I don't know if there's anybody who's actually raising aggressive bees.
No, I know, not today, but it could happen. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. We could look at other codes, we could look at our code, and we could try to add that in there, yes.
Yeah, we could look at that.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Questions?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, how do you control which bees are, is that just the ones
So, like many things, it would end up being enforcement. So it would be in the code. We could restrict it to certain species of bee, or call out that you cannot have something that's invasive or aggressive or something like that. I don't know how we would word it. We'd have to look at that. And then if there's a complaint that comes in because somebody thinks there might be some on a property, then Joe would have to go out, or Casey, to verify.
My original question was, it says residents have expressed interest in having this ordinance changed. How many, is this a common thing that people are requesting?
I would say since I've been here, I get requests quite a bit.
Okay.
And a lot of times there are a lot of people in R3 that it's minimum half acre, but they end up on properties that are acre or larger. And that's what he's talking about, that it's not necessarily miszoned, it's just how they came into us from Will County. Okay. A lot of our properties have conservation easements on them and all kinds of different ways that they did platting under Will County that allow for the lots to be much larger than what's actually the minimum lot size.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
I know in our committee, in the Environment Committee, we've had a few people who have expressed, the desire to raise chickens and bees. As far as the killer African bees, I don't see anybody wanting to raise those, so I think the honeybees will be pretty good. Thanks.
The second one is whether or not the village would like to allow retail sale of vape products as a permitted use in C1 through C4. The code currently restricts retail sales of vape products as a special use in C3, but it's already being sold in most smoke shops in town that are not zoned C3. Retail sale of tobacco products are currently listed as a permitted use in C1 through C4. The definition of a smoke shop does include products like that emit vapor, but the code is confusing, and we'd like to clarify that includes actual vape sales if the board is open to that. It's possible that a vape shop could stay a special use if they only sell vape, if we clarify that in the code. The code does not clarify that right now. Or we could combine the two into just one retail shop that combines vape and smoke shops. So those are just some of the options that we could look at, but I think overall the intent is what I'm looking for from the trustees is feedback on whether or not we'd like to allow this as a permitted use in C1 through C4.
Any other questions?
Well, as far as that, right now, certain stores are already selling that, right? We're just not enforcing it?
Correct.
And we haven't seen any problems arise? We're just...
Not that I'm aware of.
And also, it looks like from the information you provided that most of our surrounding towns already permit it.
Yeah, we did a peer analysis on this, and it's pretty common. I spoke with most of these towns when I was doing this, so it's pretty common that it's included. Yeah. This was not common when this first started. I think most of the villages around here did what we did, which was a moratorium until we kind of figured things out. Now it's pretty mainstream, so.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Good.
I have one more thing under old business. Oops.
I'm not done yet, sorry, Mayor.
Okay.
The third one is looking at adjusting parking requirements for restaurants. Basically, our code requires parking for restaurants to be analyzed based on seats and number of employees. We're looking at changing it to a square footage. It's much easier for staff to calculate, it's easier on the businesses, and I do think that this will help us. We've talked a lot about the impact of businesses that are opening, and what our code says is if there's an increase in intensity of use, that it requires you to come into compliance if there's a parking shortage. So for a business that might have 5 seats and they move out, and then a new business moves in and they have 12 seats, then Taylor and I have to do an analysis on whether or not there's a parking shortage in the parking lot. And it seems to be a little bit of it's a little intensive on our businesses and staff to be doing that for such a small increase. So this is pretty, again, we did a peer analysis, it's very common. There's APA recommendations for square footage. For restaurants, you don't have to do this by seats. This is kind of an old way of doing parking for restaurants. The only thing that would change in this is if like a restaurant came in and blew out like a storage unit and added square footage to the actual dining space or something like that. So
on an annual basis, about how many businesses have you turned away based on parking?
We don't. We try to work with them, Dan. And if it's significant, like we just had one the other day that they increased by a few seats and the change was like 0.5 over, you know, and we just let them move in.
Do you take into consideration the seats, the busing, the people that would take a bus, people that would Uber, people that would maybe have somebody drop them off? And is that worked into your adjustment at all?
The codes don't
It seems
take that
like,
into account.
you know what, we go to a lot of restaurants and sometimes the parking lot is filled, but we find a way to get there.
Right.
And so I would hate to see us you know, tell a business you can't open because the parking doesn't fit. I almost think this is archaic to have it at all. And I don't have a restaurant now, but I know we had people come and go when we did have a restaurant, and not everybody drives a car that's going to a restaurant. So I almost think this, I don't know how that would affect anything we're doing. Maybe you could give some input on that if we got rid of this altogether.
So I can address a couple things. I think that we had talked about, another item on this was talking about kind of parking, it's on my list, parking in general, Dan, about how we handle increases of intensity or parking for existing uses, which I think we could definitely address and just not have that be a thing. Like businesses could just turn over, we can not worry about that if we don't want to. The codes though for basic parking levels, I think at some level need to be in there for new development. That's really what these are for most of the time, is trying to calculate how big of a parking lot we need for a new building that's going up.
Well, even at that level, I mean, the same things still apply that I just said, so.
Sure.
I mean, I would like to go in the direction myself of eliminating any type of village code like that. I don't know if the board agrees, but that's the way I'm seeing it right now.
Yeah.
I see.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, as a restaurant owner, I can tell you it's very frustrating when you have people that can't find a place to park. One example would be Founder's Crossing. When we were in Founder's Crossing, you had Pepe's that had an occupancy of over 200. You had my restaurant that had an occupancy over 100. You had the Lifetime Fitness, which had numerous occupancy, I don't know the exact amount, but then you had Pelican Harry's, and every single day we fought with each other to the point that we all became enemies because there was not enough parking for our businesses. So for me, as a restaurant owner, I believe that we need to do something in order to meet the needs of the business.
On the other side of that, I'm also a restaurant owner, and I see both sides. I think on new construction, we should definitely have some sort of a prerequisite or some sort of algorithm for parking. But for existing businesses, I mean, as Trustee Fialco had mentioned before, a lot of my business comes in Uber, especially if they're going to come in, have a good time, the car drops them off, takes off, picks them up when they're finished. So there's a lot of that going on now that we didn't see in the past, and trends that we should really look at. So maybe a happy medium of both, because I definitely get both sides.
And Rose, what you're talking about is a shared parking lot though too. So you can't tell people where they can park if they're coming to that strip mall. So those people can park wherever they want, and if somebody draws more business in than somebody else, and your parking spots get taken up. I've gone to your restaurant when it was by Pepe's, and it was packed, but we still found a place to park. We went in the back. So my point is, instead of scaring customers away or scaring businesses away because of a restriction that seems to a little archaic, people will always find, if they want to eat at your restaurant, Rose, they're going to find a way to get there, even if they have to go back home and take an Uber to get there. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
This also helps with restaurants that show us plans and they got 5 tables in the restaurant, and all of a sudden now they open and there's 10 in there. So now the capacity for parking has increased. So this kind of gives us a more structured idea of how we can do the square footage and stuff for the restaurants, and for parking. So.
Okay, any other comments on it?
Hang on.
We still got more.
We have, yep.
We got 6, right?
There's 2 more, and then there's a list of clarifications. We don't have to go through those. If you have questions, just let me know about those.
Just want to know, so I'm not interrupting.
Number 4 is whether or not the village is interested in allowing electronic message signs as a component of a permitted ground monument sign. The code currently prohibits electronic message boards. This is pretty, I guess, simple in overall discussion from my standpoint. We did talk about this last time. I think that there was some discussion, and my memory serves, that we talked about maybe allowing this in P1. I'm not sure if that was a discussion here. Was that here? It is an option. We could try it out in a district if we wanted to. I know the library had just they came through and asked about doing this, and I think that conversation came up maybe during their board agenda item. So I'm not sure where the board sits with this, but I'm just open to, I guess, discussion with all of you.
I mean, we talked about it so much in the past, and I agree with Sharon that it needs to go through public safety, because Joe, you agree, we always had a lot of back and forth there relative to the studies that were done, and so I'd like to see what public safety has to say about it for sure. It is hard to say open it up to, when I'm looking at this list here. I think initially my thought was I would support it at the government buildings only, and see how it worked starting there. But I would still pause on that until I hear from public safety. And it's a whole new committee there now too than when we went through all of this in the past.
Trustee Rogers, would you like us to take this to public safety and then bring this item back in front of the board, or would you like us to take it to public safety and then move on to Plan Commission?
No, I would be fine with it going Public Safety Plan Commission. Then
just as long as we have a recommendation from them to come along with it? Okay.
You might also want to run it through CED as well.
I think what we could do at public safety is do an evaluation. I mean, we're talking electronic signs. We're not talking, we need to evaluate brightness, how you're going to change characters.
Right, and to make sure it doesn't impact our dark skies.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I think somewhere in there too, we should, if we adopt any portion of electronic signage, there should be hours of operation too. When it gets to be nighttime, those flashing lights and the way they change should not disrupt the surrounding area.
Okay.
Yeah, my feedback on this is kind of on par with what Lamont does, making sure in the residential zoned areas we're not having, bright signs shining into windows and things like that. So that would be my feedback. And I think we want to talk about more electronic signs on the business corridor. I think we had talked about that previously, but I would be interested in making sure we protect our residential areas.
Okay. Which is hard because 143rd backs up to so many homes.
That's right.
In
Yeah.
some parts of
I just think
so
I think it's going to change. I just think it's going to change the character of 143rd Bell Road. Yeah, I think it'll change the character.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not so worried about the dark skies. I just think that it's just really going to change the character.
Well, that would be if every business on the street wanted it. I don't think, do we get, I mean, on average, using a percentage of businesses, how many have come to you not knowing that the ordinance existed and were looking for that type of signage?
So recent requests would be the library at Culver's. They asked for one, begged for one, actually. So we get that a lot. They, and then I'm trying to think if there's been others. And maybe a few Big R did ask for one.
So it isn't that many businesses in comparison to how many?
They are expensive to install, so.
Very much.
And of course, the size of it would be taken into consideration, hours of operation, and who would be able to do it. So I think we're on the right track with bringing it back to public safety.
Okay. Thank you. The last content change is regarding the tree preservation ordinance. There's a few, so the main change that is being brought forward is the top one, which is to reduce the acreage threshold for the applicability of the tree preservation ordinance. It's currently at 5. The Environment Committee is recommending that this come down to 2.5. This has been talked about for many, many years, brought forward requests to be reduced to, I think, as little as 1. When Trustee Consolino came onto the Environment Committee and Ruben and Jen facilitated some conversation brought up by the committee members again, and they kind of settled at more of a negotiated 2.5 acres as a presentation to the board to see if there was any feeling that there'd be support for this to reduce that acreage threshold. This basically means that any property, even a residential home that's at this size, 2.5 acres, is required to comply with that tree preservation ordinance. Right now, if you're 2.5 acres, you don't have to. So you can come in and just build your home and do whatever you want. There's literally no applicability whatsoever. That's kind of the major one. Do you want me to go through all of these or?
No.
Okay.
I was just saying, this is something that we've struggled with for so many years, and it's just something that I'm comfortable with where it's at, especially, we continue to hear community and nature and harmony, community, nature and harmony, and the problem is people break this all the time because it's so easy to ask for forgiveness than permission. So we have seen it abused time and time again, so I could see it getting even worse if we reduced that. Because it's really easy to cut down the tree and then say, I didn't know I was supposed to cut it down, I'll replace it with a 1-inch, and I mean, we've had that happen here. So this isn't something that I could really support, especially on Arbor Day.
We had a couple major ones.
We've had some bad ones.
Does anybody else have any comments on this?
I'd like to evaluate it a little bit more, probably get more feedback.
Okay. Can I ask, within this, for me, there were some things that I brought up to the Environment Committee because I run into them with new development a lot. And I have them on the slide, but I think for me, like bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, not numbered, 1, 2, 3, the one that says clarify a specific list of tree species that are exempt. I think of this as more of a clarification thing. We don't have a list. So our code says you have to mitigate for all these trees except things that are exempt. But there's no list for me to tell a developer what the exempt tree list is. So Roger and I have come up with a list that we kind of have on the books that we use, but I would love to have something that's more official. If you guys are okay with that, I'd like to move on with at least that piece of this, because that's really important for our developers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Because sometimes a tree, people look at it and call it a tree when it's actually just a really old weed.
Yes, correct.
Have a few of those.
Same.
All right, and we can keep these on and bring them back again, a different workshop. Okay?
Yes. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right, so that's just discussion.
Now, George.
Okay. All right, one thing under old business for me. I wanted to know where we're at with getting Carmen some help, because he's new to this. I think he's doing a wonderful job, but he still has a lot to go, and I want to make sure that he triumphs and gets this thing caught up so we can make it fair to him, because right now he's He's working his butt off. So I would like to see if we have any update on help to get him.
I'd like to hear from Carmen directly, how he feels about that.
Yeah, and Carmen's a smart individual. He's quite capable of making that decision when he's ready, and I don't think we should force him to do anything. That's his job to make that decision.
I'd like to hear from Carmen.
I'd like to hear.
So at this point, you know...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Beth.
I'd like to hear from Carmen.
Yeah.
At this point, I like to say that the staff here is wonderful, and I'm building a team, and they all understand where I'm coming from with trying to build a team. So we can facilitate a lot of stuff that you guys want to do as a board. I am not at a position yet to say I want to bring somebody in, because I feel that there's a lot of potential that's already here in our office. And I'd like to review that a little closer and go from there. But that's how I feel right now, so just enough.
It was good. Thanks, Carmen.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you.
That's fine. All we want to do is just make sure that you're not buried alive.
Thank you, George, very much.
Is there any other old business?
Under old business, the flock cameras, the total of 10, we have 2 installed, and we have a delay with the Will County permits for the other ones, right?
Yes.
And so out of the IDOT cameras, 0 have been installed, and 2 of the others have been installed. That's where we're at, right?
Right, correct.
And if I remember correctly, it's after the 6 get installed, that's when our 90-day period starts with the trial.
Right, yes.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, as an update, I've done a little bit of homework on this. The digital cameras, the flock cameras, it was said once or twice that the picture, it goes away. It does not go away. The LPR system is in a digital cloud called Vigilant. And Vigilant holds every picture that was ever taken of any license plate. Anytime anybody that has access to that system can find out where that vehicle and that license plate that's being entered can be found. So I just want to put that out there also, because we are not through with the flock camera system yet. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else for old business? We have anything for new business?
Just a little bit. I had spoken to Carmen briefly, and I was interested in looking into and just reviewing whether or not to do some type of mural that the kids stand in front of or adults stand in front of that have become really popular in some of the commercial areas. I think it would help to draw people to go there. I mean, I have a couple areas in my head that I think would be good areas, but I don't want to speak to that yet until I speak to those owners. But I just think that they would look, it would be something to kind of start attracting and engaging people. You know, I even thought about doing temporary type of thing that could be interchangeable that we could use at events. That's when we had an amazing artist on staff, but she's since left, so that might not be doable to have that change for all of those.
We can commission her.
Like that, but currently the way that our ordinance is written, it's those aren't allowed, I was told. So I'd like to just see if the rest of the board is open to looking at that ordinance that's prohibiting this, to look into potentially doing something like this at least 1 or 2 places in the area.
I had an idea. Oh, go ahead.
At our Parks Committee, I actually did some research on this after somebody had posted it and then brought it to our attention. I did some research on it, and you will find around the country in a lot of the zoos, they actually have, what they do is they have artists draw the butterflies, and they actually plant them in, they implant them in parks, in the zoo, and things like that. And I also actually did some research on if we were to build in our park, if we wanted to do something like that in the park, where we could build a cement block wall and have it as a feature where the kids can come, if we did something like that in the playground, and where they can come and they can take pictures with it. And basically, it's a cement block wall, and I did actually talk to a contractor regarding that to see what it would cost. And depending on the size, it would probably be less than $5,000. build a cement block wall, and we could have an artist from the area, come out and paint it. But we did do, and I mean, and even like John Robinson, I asked him if he could actually build the wooden, it's basically about like a 3-inch with a frame on it, and it sits in, they actually put the 4x4s in the ground, and then they put the board on it, and somebody paints it, and then the kids can come. It's at level where all the kids can come, but there were several of them around the zoos, and it was so pretty. So, I mean, I did actually look into it.
I love the idea. I think it's a cool idea. I would love to, Rosie, Trustee Reinders brought drawings and pictures, and so we got all excited about the potential, trying to make this work around Homer Glen, maybe without a building or in our parks. I like it.
So I think the first step would have to be to have staff look at our ordinance to see where something like this would be in violation of it. If we were to choose to put it on a building, like the park, I think you're fine, right?
Yeah.
But if there would be an option to put it on a building, because I think it would also attract, kids to go there, and they might go and eat dinner there and get their picture taken or have ice cream or something like that. It might be something to start drawing people to some areas.
Well, where are you thinking, do you have a building in mind? Because now we have to also get the permission from the building owner, right?
Right, that's why I really don't want to speak to the areas that I have in mind, because I want to know if this is something, first of all, that the board is supportive of, and that if we can change that before we approach business owners.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Rose, I think as far as you saying and possibly having a wall here, just like we do chalk it up, even if it wasn't painted, if it was chalk drawn and you could change them every so often instead of painting it, I think we're on the right track with that. That's a great idea.
Well, the problem with chalk is the rain. So what I envisioned was painting over it every time, like seasonally would be really neat too, like a fall one, a spring one, a winter one.
Some of the ones that I pulled up, one of them was a fall. They were just absolutely beautiful. And I mean, I think the kids would just go crazy for them.
So that's where I'm at. If you guys could look into that, I appreciate it.
Okay.
One more thing under old business.
Old business?
Oh,
we're at new business.
Oh, this will fit right there anyway.
Okay.
Under new business, I don't think we've talked about this yet. The Home Depot grant for the facade of this building. Carmen, if you could just, so the public knows what took place and what we're doing with that.
So Home Depot reached out to us, they were looking for some ideas. They wanted to kind of give some kind of grant money. They asked what our ideas was, and Sue Stylen had kind of communicated with them that she would like to see the flag area of the front of our building to be upgraded. So they're going to do some landscape design on that and get everybody out there to plant new flowers and stuff to make it beautify it. And they awarded $10,800, which was awesome. So
I think Rose is going to help a little bit with that too, aren't you, Rose?
No.
No?
I didn't want to run with it.
Rose is busy. No, actually, it's this is Sue Stylen's baby. She's worked directly with Home Depot, so I don't want to step on anybody's toes. No, my baby's the park, so, May 22nd, we're going to have all the kids out there, and we're going to be planting. We're going to clean up the beds, take care of the Serenity Garden, so, no, I don't need another job on my plate.
I think it was awesome.
Thank you for the confidence, though.
Okay, next thing I have is executive session. Probable and imminent litigation, something with the union, and personnel.
Mayor, all I have is a short report on collective bargaining. I have nothing else for closed session.
Okay. Do we have to go into closed session for it, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if it's something that's short, hopefully we can get this thing done without a big break.
Sir, and only because after we clear the room, everybody's pretty much gone. I just want to give a quick plug to our local chamber. The Heritage Corridor Business Alliance has a golf outing on June 9th. The tee-off is at 9, $150 a person, $550 for the foursome. For more information, call the Heritage Corridor Business Alliance very important to support them because they support our local businesses. Thank you.
What day is that?
I'm sorry, that's June 9th on a Thursday, so I can go.
Oh, and it's
You want to be in my foursome?
You wouldn't want me.
I don't think you'd want me.
Me either.
All right, that's all I had, sir.
I lose, unfortunately, a lot of balls.
Ah, gotcha.
Can't see them. All right.
There's no action that's going to be taken, right, Gary?
I'm sorry.
There's no action you're expecting from...
No action at all.
Okay. All right, so what we need to do and then is just, do an adjournment and
Well, you can...
we have to clear the
Yeah,
room.
we need a motion to go into closed session.
Okay.
Mayor, can I get a motion?
All right, I need to make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
That is, show in the record, that's for collective bargaining discussion.
Okay. All right, that should empty out pretty quick.
Nice job tonight.